You have a quorum.
I'm going to call this meeting of the City of Springfield Historic Commission to order at 4:30 p.m. on March 26th, 2024. We'll start with a roll. Elise Josephson is present. Vice Chair Swenson Harris. Present. Jennifer Blee. Commissioner Helmer.
Present.
Commissioner Donovan.
Present.
Commissioner Wood. Absent. Commissioner Howard.
Present.
All right, with 5 members present, we have a quorum and we'll get to business. Does anyone have any additions or corrections to the agenda? Seeing none, the agenda stands approved. Public comment and business from the audience. There is no one in the room, and I've already checked business from the audience on Springfield Oregon Speaks, and there are no business items from the audience. Moving next to historic land use applications, we have none currently pending. However, we have an inquiry from 527 F Street. Tom, do you want to tell us about that?
Yes, let me bring up the map real quick. Basically, this is a location that Charlotte actually brought to our attention last year. So, and let's see, this structure right back here. Do we have so Charlotte, you probably remember this was the picture you took. They had replaced the door and took out a portion of the window here to put in a French door without notice or contacting us or permits or anything. Code enforcement did follow up with them and they are now in contact with me. I have provided them an application to rectify this, but I have not received the application yet. I have been receiving calls from the applicant, just what they need to do to go forward to fix both the code violation and get the changes permitted. If we are going to let them keep it, we will look at that through review and bringing it to the commission here. But right now, that application has not been received, but just so it's on the radar, that will be an up and coming historic application.
All right.
That's the front of the house.
Yeah, yeah. So it's 527 and 529. This is the structure at the front that had been affected. So it's forward facing. It's going to be a type 2 since it is in the front. It is a primary contributing structure I had looked up. So, yep, full blown historic application. Yes.
It strikes me that, and maybe I'm just not sure, are the windows in this existing photo accurate to as they would have been historically?
I believe so. I know the 3 little window set up here, that fenestration, and I'm pretty sure this one was in the historic image we had, at least from the 87 survey, I believe it was.
But the actual windows.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they've been replaced. Those kind of look like aluminum anyways, but Charlotte, do you have anything else on this?
I just wanted to mention that when our consultants with Willamette CRA submitted their resurvey of some of the properties in the district earlier this year, I believe that they, because of those changes to the front of the building, I believe that they were identifying it as no longer contributing. That doesn't change its National Register status, but I think it's actually good guidance for us that the changes that were made without a permit, at least according to our consultant, is enough to make it no longer a contributing resource. And of course, we can make our own decision as a committee about that, but I think it's guidance that's worth, being aware of.
Mm-hmm.
Very good, thank you. Yeah, do we know, is there the possibility that if we were to have it returned or taken out that French door, would it return to a contributing status at some point in the future, or once we lose it, it's lost?
It could be I think it'd fall under the category of a reconstruction under the Secretary of the Interior standards. So a feature that's restored does again contribute to the significance. If the whole building were to be burned down and reconstructed, then it may or may not be eligible, but restoring lost features, yeah, would protect the status.
Very good. It's good to know going into my review with it too. Thank you. And that's it.
All right. Anything else before I move on? All right, we're gonna move on to the walking tour guide. Celine, do you have anything to update us with?
I don't have any additional materials. Given my work schedule, it is looking as if I will probably have something for us in June.
Okay. Next we have the educational opportunities. I haven't noticed anything from the Conference of Historic Preservation Commissioners or anybody else. Has anyone heard of anything that they thought was interesting?
The Heritage Conference is coming up in a couple of weeks, right? Or a few weeks.
The Oregon one?
Yeah, the 17th or 18th or
Yeah,
something, April.
we got emailed about that. Is that right? Pretty sure we did.
I did. I can send that out if it didn't reach the other commissioners.
Sure, that'd be great.
Is anyone planning on going to the Heritage Commission or the
I'm thinking
conference?
about going Thursday only because I teach or Wednesday and Friday, but I was thinking about going for one day.
Cool. I will be there on the 19th as part of a panel about, forgetting the title, but basically using the federal compliance project to support local preservation programs. So I'll plan to be there all day on Friday, but I'm not going for the previous days.
All right. Moving along to the CLG grant. Take it away.
CLG grant, we received the agreement. We received $16,500. The maximum to be asked for was 15, and there was an extra line item where they could give an extra 1,500, which it was done. So
Did we ask for it or they just like, were like, hi?
it was
have
just a
some money."
line, like if you were to receive the extra
Yep.
funds, what would you do with
Mhm.
it? So I entered, I think maybe about the tree
Trees,
stuff.
I think it's
Yeah,
the
yeah.
trees.
And we got it.
Sweet.
So if we have time in this round, we can institute that money into the heritage tree recognition. But yeah, I mean, other than going through this item by item, looks like staff and personnel, volunteer time, 6,000. Materials and equipment, public education, 1,200. The RLS, we got 11,000 for. And then review and compliance, including our consultant, we got 14,500. Obviously, that adds up to more than the 16,500, but with the match amount of 22,675, we have a total project budget of $33,000 or $33,050.
I have a question regarding the additional funds we received
Mhm.
and the assertion we would use it for a tree project.
Okay.
Does that then obligate us to ensure that we actually make progress on a tree project within this grant cycle? Or would assume that that money would need to be spent on what we said we would spend it for?
Yeah, that's a good question. Do you have any?
It's interesting because it is the additional fund category. In the past, they've been pretty lenient with us moving things between categories when it wasn't
Yeah.
a special grant.
Mhm.
I suspect we should talk to the state, but probably do need to either make progress on it or return the funds,
Mhm.
is my guess. My guess is that if they are awarding us special funds for a special project that they think is unique,
Yeah, yeah.
want
you
it to
need-
happen.
yeah.
In that case, we
Yeah.
probably ought to think about,
Planting a tree.
yes, what our
Yeah.
plan will be to actually
Plan a tree-
accomplish
a tree
that and be able
project.
to spend those funds.
Yeah, I will look into that and we'll follow.
Thank you.
It would be interesting also with the tree thing. I mean, we've talked about obviously doing some level of survey and or, medallion program, some sort of recognition program. It'd be interesting to also loop in Neil and or whoever else is working on trying to ultimately maybe get us back a Tree City status, right?
Yep.
So.
Absolutely.
It's interesting to be planning this effort after this
Yeah.
remarkable
This
storm
Yeah,
that impacted so many trees, and we're the trees, we were just all very aware of them in a different way, but yeah.
All the remaining trees deserve medallions, like.
You
Yeah.
Yeah.
all right.
That's the only updates. We got the money. We
Yeah.
can, we're funded through 2025. We're good to go.
All right.
Can
The
I
only
add
other,
the special congratulations to Tom and Elise for getting us over the finish line with that. I think you guys really spearheaded that effort. Thank you.
This is my first grant, so I'm very pleased. with
Nailed it.
Thank
the
you.
first one is always the hardest.
Yeah.
The only other update that I have is that we got, hi Commissioner Wood, that we got over $10,000 for the reconnaissance survey, which means we're gonna have to do competitive bidding for at least 3 bids. That's the only other thing of note.
Yeah.
All right. Any questions, comments, concerns, etc.?
Do we have a
What I
plan?
miss?
Do we have a path for getting those bids? Like, do we need to be jumping on, like, do we know who we want to identify to solicit to?
My guess is we're gonna have to do a request for bids. We'll have to talk to contracting for that, but my guess is we're gonna have to do a public request for bids. Just based on how it was written there, it seemed like probably.
Like a full-on open RFP, not just
I don't know if we'll have to do, I think there's probably something for, less than a really large project,
Yeah.
but bigger than a small project.
like a lot of
Um,
times when there's like, whatever, an RFP for architectural service, for like a
Right.
remodel of an office,
Right.
where it's like more than nothing,
Yeah.
but not huge. They'll just, it'll go to select, you can pick 3 or whatever, and then they competitively bid it, but.
We'll have to talk
Yeah.
to our contracting folks to see what our contracting
Mm-hmm.
law is, because I know it does vary. I think Springfield has its own.
Yeah, yeah,
So I guess if we had to do an open one, it would be interesting to see who all.
True,
applied.
yeah. well,
yeah, that would be interesting.
And then we'd have to have a
Probably-
selection process, which is hard, it's just based on price.
That's
Yeah.
actually a really good question, which may be something for after we talk to
Mhm.
contracts, but I think we probably also need to think about whether there is a role that this board has in that and what that process will look like. I don't know if that's something that city staff would just do, or if that's something where we as the decision-making body would need to think about our evaluation of it
Right.
and the vote.
I think once the call is made, depending on if we have to take, make the bids or receive the bids from whoever bids, or if we can select 3 and then go through those as a commission. But either way, I think we should talk about it before we make that decision.
All right. Thank you again, Tom, for getting that done. And I think probably our largest grant yet. I don't know if I think we've gotten close to asking for the maximum. We've certainly, I don't think, ever gone over the maximum. So thank you. Moving next to commissioner updates. Anyone have any updates?
I
Well,
could.
Let's do Commissioner Wood and Commissioner Helmer.
I just wanted to say that Oregon has revised its recreational liability laws. So that might open up the possibility, along with the expansion of urban growth boundaries, to recognize Hayden Bridge as a historic part of Springfield.
You make a very good point, Taryn.
Let's do Commissioner Helmer next.
Yeah, I wanted to just let you guys know that on behalf of ODOT, I'm working in my day job on researching historic properties in Springfield all along the highway in preparation for an ADA curb ramp project that's going to come through and work at essentially every single intersection, with the caveat that the signalized intersections are proving really tricky. So I can't actually remember whether that's one that we've talked about before, but I'm curious if it's something that you guys would like to hear more about either today or at another meeting. The reason I'm asking is that in addition to design review under the city code, the Historic Commission also has a role in consultation on projects that use federal funding under Section 106 of the National Historic Preservation Act. So ODOT, who I work for, has a responsibility to reach out and invite the commission to give comments on how the project may impact historic resources. And then we also have an obligation to try and incorporate your comments into the design to the extent that we can, while also meeting project goals. So this will potentially involve replacing every single corner through our downtown commercial area, like right in front of Planktown and Lovely, and a lot of other right near the depot as well. So some of our really iconic structures, and it will be great to make these areas ADA accessible. But there will probably be some visual impacts, and we'd love to work with the commission. I would take my commissioner hat off for that conversation. But it would be great to make sure that what ODOT is proposing is done in coordination with the local preservation program.
Do you have a timeline on that, Commissioner Helmer?
A timeline, did you say? Yeah. Well, it would be useful to discuss it sometime in the next 2 months.
Okay.
Is this gonna be down Main Street then? Oh,
Yes.
and then where it splits?
Yes, out to, I think, 72nd Street. So pretty much from the bridge all the way out to 72nd.
Yeah, big project.
Yeah.
I think that would be fantastic. I do want to check with city staff on, this commission has a prohibition of passing any comments to non-city of Springfield entities except through the city council. That is, it's something that's contained separately that we have been warned of before. And so if we are going to be passing official comments, I want to make sure we do that through the city process the right way.
Would that? I'm wondering if there is a way within that to make sure that we are not causing this to be something that has to come to council repeatedly if it does in fact have to come to council.
Yeah, yeah, we should check on that. I can pull you the exact section, so
Yeah.
it's easier
Okay.
for you to ask kind of your city council,
Yeah.
well, city attorney about rather.
Thank
I
you
was
so
about
much
to ask,
for bringing that up. And one way we could maybe approach it is to have a discussion about the scope of the project, the sort of an informational session, and then any sort of more formal comments that, for instance, would be in writing could be done much more closely in coordination with the planning staff and the city council if necessary. I don't think there will be major decisions to make.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Commissioner Swinton Harris.
If it's a larger informational conversation, I wonder if too, we could just make sure the city councilors are aware of it
Yeah.
and invite them to participate in an informational conversation. I don't know if that satisfies our requirement.
Yeah.
This could be helpful to have our council liaison present, or at least for the next meeting. I have invited Counselor Doyle to a few meetings. I have not received responses on those. I know Counselor Pitts was pretty active previously in our meetings, and Counselor Doyle not so much so far. But that would be our bridge to get some of these
Yeah.
questions answered on this topic.
Sure.
Okay.
So I'll invite her to the next one, and hopefully we can get somewhere with it.
But yeah, and I do think we can work on, I think at the next, if everyone's okay with it, maybe a presentation at the next meeting would be good. So that way we can work some of this stuff out, but it's still timely for Commissioner Helmer and her other role.
Great.
Does that sound good, everybody?
Yeah.
Would it be appropriate for me to send a packet with a little bit of information ahead of time for review, just so you have a map of the project locations and things like that? Okay.
So,
All right. Thank you.
I was gonna say, aren't they going to channelize some of the streets on Main Street, or, the left turn lanes and stuff down by where the Safeway used to be, and do you know?
I don't know. Unfortunately, I'm kind of in a silo of just focusing on the ADA projects, but there are definitely folks at ODOT I could reach out to get more information about
Yeah.
that. And Tom, your team might also know more about what transportation projects are proposed.
Yep, I can, or if you would also like to reach out to, gosh, I forget his last name now for some reason, Michael Liebler is our transportation engineer. You might have already been in contact with him, but he would be aware of any future projects of lanes.
I just
or
think I
anything
saw
like
it on the ODOT website where construction projects in your area that, you know, and it's, but I'm not sure.
And Commissioner Helmer, with what you've seen so far, being that this is ADA projects, which seems, I would say, restricted to the right of way, have you identified any historic assets that might be affected due to that work? Or like anything extending into these properties that wouldn't be right of way or
We-
ODOT property?
We do work outside of ODOT's right of way on these projects,
Okay.
not at every location, but at some. Our downtown area here in Springfield already has some modest curb extensions and some pretty wide sidewalks and zero setback buildings. So I'm optimistic that, you know, we won't see a lot of impacts outside of ODOT's right of way. That said, I don't yet know for sure where right of way easements will be proposed. I think that the considerations that I usually ask of all historic commissions when we're working on these ADA projects is to think about, in particular, whether there are any concerns about the colors or materials that will be introduced in an area that's managed as a district. We know that our downtown is not a listed historic district, but one of the things ODOT will be doing is evaluating it for consideration of whether it is eligible as a historic district. And that's not the same thing as getting listed, but it helps us as an agency know what our responsibility is to treat it as a district or as individual properties. We also typically ask whether cities have a standard protocol for replacing any sidewalk stamps if any are impacted. I'm not aware of any that will be in the project, but we've got a team that's going to go out and survey for archaeological and cultural artifacts and things like that here in the next week or so. The other thing is that these ADA curb ramp projects sometimes introduce new landscapes into little pockets of landscaping into the districts. And so I'll share a couple of photos of what that can look like, but it can feel pretty different than having kind of these simpler, smooth sloped ramps like we have right now in downtown Springfield. So really mostly a matter of the aesthetics of a district and visual impacts. I really doubt that we're going to propose anything that actually touches significant buildings or makes them different.
Perfect, yeah, very good, thank you, thank you.
All right, and then Commissioner Wood. You were next up.
I think I already went.
Oh, did I do it? Oh, yeah, never mind, sorry.
worries.
You're correct. And then, next we have the appointments, so they're coming up, right?
Yeah, so the call for applicants was reposted. We did not receive any. I did have one inquiry of someone trying to navigate the process, which I sent directions and, you know, click this, fill this out, submit it. I'm not sure if that has been done, but the positions were reposted. We still have 2 openings, as we know. I think that closes in April at some point, I want to say, so we shall see.
Nobody needs to reapply if they're interested from here right now, correct?
No, I'm pretty sure we're all pretty far out, at least like 25 should be the next lapsing positions, but I will double check that. That's a very good point to make, yeah.
Anything before we go? All right, seeing none, we're gonna adjourn this meeting at 4:55 PM. Thank you all for coming.
Might actually be a little bit more than I think ever. But I was gonna have to miss.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Thanks for your paper clip.
Oh, thank you.
Destroyed the
Where
ground.
are you teaching?
U of O.